Hey, everybody. How you doing this evening? Thanks for joining us. Welcome to another Prospecting Buddy Digging Deeper podcast featuring myself, Errol Bremer, special guest, Kayla Nugget Johanson, and our fearless leader, Jaron Colnane.
Let's do it.
We're having some connectivity issues tonight, but we're going to go ahead and give it a go and see how things roll. How are you guys doing?
Looks like we got a bunch of people in the building. Holy moly.
Seriously.
Yeah, it's popping off over here on YouTube. We're over on Facebook, and things are going crazy. Let's go ahead and give some shout outs real quick. We're going to go through some names real quick. We got quite a bit of people, and then we're gonna make this happen. First and foremost, guys, just as you guys need to know, this podcast is going to be a little bit short. Kayla Nugget Johanson, she's actually outside. We're having connectivity issues, like Arrow mentioned, so it's going to be a short podcast, but it's going to be something that's called short and sweet. It's going to be an amazing podcast. We're going to get over a lot of topics, and it might be a little bit of a quick situation with the topics, but I think you guys will get the point. As long as you guys are tuning in and listening, I think it's going to be a great podcast.
Well, we're going to give it a go. We're going to
give it a go. We got to.
Things get rolling. We got to let it go.
That's right. Win-win situation. All right, so let's go ahead and name off some of the folks jumped in here. We got Jason AU Colorado. What's up, big dog? Rob McGuire, Jim Morgan, Mr. Don Went, officially in the PB moderator family these days. Stephen Bertrand, Cliff Summer. Let's see, John Parslow, Cliff Summer, David Everest, Alan Barnett, Greg Jennings, Stephen Deerdorf. What's up, brother? We got Chuck Bauer. We got CJ Hayes, SDI Prospecting, Cottonwood Trails Gold Camp. And I can go on and on and on. It's awesome to see you guys here in the building. David Everest. Good deal. All right, so with that being said, Gold Chasers. All right, Gold Chasers in the building. Sonny Rico, what's going on? Sweet, good deal. Brian Sword, North Carolina. He says, howdy from St. George. John Parslow, good deal. Well, it's good to see all you guys in the building this evening. We have a very special guest. She decided to take time out of her day to be able to jump on the podcast this evening and listen to me bump my gums and Arrow bump his gums and ask all the questions we could possibly ask. Without further ado, the first question that we always ask in the beginning of a podcast with any special guest, especially Kayla herself, is, Kayla, how the hell did you get into gold prospecting in the first place?
How did I get into gold prospecting? I started panning when I was about 17. I used to live in Southern California, and I used to go camping in the San Gabriel Mountains with my dad all the time. And this was back before they had banned dredging in California. So I used to see all these guys out there with their dredges in the river and thought it looked pretty interesting. So I got interested in it, started panning. I didn't really know what I was doing. It was just kind of playing around. And then I found out the next year that my grandfather, who lived in Arizona, was into gold panning. So I went and stayed with him, and he taught me a little bit more. And then it just kind of took off like wildfire after that. But I think the interest was stemmed in me a lot earlier than that, though, because when I was about 8 or 9 years old, like my dad used to take me out to old ghost towns, and we'd explore the old ghost towns and old mine shafts and stuff like that. So I've always had an interest in like finding cool stuff like that. So I think that's kind of what embedded it in me. And then seeing everyone dredging just kind of made a stronger force. And then I moved to North Carolina about a year later. And when I moved to North Carolina, I did a lot of research and found out that North Carolina was the #1 gold producing state before the California gold rush. So I started doing more research, more footwork, more sampling, and it just kind of went haywire. And so I started out panning and then started sluicing. And then next thing you know, I bought a dredge. And then a few years later, I bought another dredge. And then a few years later, another dredge. And it kind of went a little crazy.
The fever is strong with this one, Arrow. The fever is strong. For about
17 years now. Yeah, I've been prospecting for about 17 years now, dredging for about 10 years now.
Wow.
How old were you when you found your first piece of gold?
I started panning when I was 17.
So 17, that's when you found your first piece of gold.
Yep.
So
cool.
Half of my life ago.
That's awesome. I'm going to kind of jump from left to right because I'm extremely excited to have you on the podcast. I mean, we all watch you on the show, and even outside the show, you got a lot going on with your Etsy website, the things you do outside, and what you do full time outside the show just embodies who you are and what you
Yeah.
do, and what you're all about. And I mean, me as a bystander sitting back on, let's say a football field as a cheerleader, like I'm sitting back, I'm like, yes, like this is absolutely awesome, because it's one of those things where it's been instilled in you. It's not a hobby. It's something that you take a lot of pride in doing every time you go out, whether you're on the show or off the show. It's something you take pride in, and it really speaks volumes with a lot of people out there that try to do the same exact thing. They try their heart out day in and day out. Whether it's getting a new dredge or looking up new claims or this, that, and the other. It's something that just is instilled in you, and being able to see your journey is just absolutely insane. You being able to see you on the map more than anything embodies exactly what you're about. You're what you do off the camera, or behind the camera, and in front of the camera. And it's extremely exciting. So me being a little fanboy here, I'm honestly very happy to have you on the podcast. I really am. It's really awesome. It's awesome to be able to speak with folks that actually genuinely do this for a living. You don't see that anymore. It's very far and few between. And when you do, it's exciting to be able to pick their brain a little bit and see what they're really about. What they've went through, the bad times, the good times, to get where you're at these days. And because most people, and I'm not going to say this generically speaking, but it's a reality. Most people think that when you see something on a TV, it's a whole different ballgame. They're like, oh yeah, yeah. That's not the case. You know what I mean? There's so much more footwork that goes behind it. And if you don't have that knowledge and understanding of how real things actually work behind the screen, then when you go and spend all of your hard-earned money and go back home with nothing, there's a reason. It's not as easy as it looks. And out of all people, you'd be one to be able to speak on that. So with this next topic, would you be able to speak to the folks that are watching right now, some of the trials and tribulations you went through to actually get it to a point where it's full time for you, where you do it full time, where this is what you do, this is behind the, outside of the TV show, and in the TV show. Like, let the viewers know that are watching right now the trials and tribulations that you do have to go through, if you don't mind.
So I definitely didn't start doing it full time. It was a hobby when I started, and quickly turned into an obsession. And it was years and years of footwork, years of sampling, years of research, years of going out and getting, a third of a gram. And, I'd have good days panning, but it wasn't full time. And I never sold any of the gold that I got when I first started. I didn't really start selling gold until about 4 or 5 years ago. I used to keep all my gold. And then back in 2019, I always knew that this was something that I kind of wanted to turn into, I wouldn't say a career, but like my way of life.
Right.
And I don't only mine gold, but I mine like quartz crystals and all different stuff too. So it started out with me selling quartz crystals. And then I started making jewelry with stones that I would find. And so that's how the jewelry thing got started. And then I decided, I wanted to take the dredging into more than just a hobby. I didn't want to just do it on my days off and have to work a regular job. But in order to do so, I had to make a lot of sacrifices. I had to live in some less than ideal conditions. I couldn't afford a nice 3-bedroom house and the best of the best and nice clothes and a new car and all that. Like, there's a lot of sacrifices that I had to make when I started out. And still, even to this day, there's a lot of sacrifices that I still make in order to be able to save to do the things that I want to do. So in 2019, I had a friend help me do some research, and we found a claim that I leased. And I decided around the end of November of 2019 that I was going to move to Alaska. And so I just sold everything I possibly could sell and saved up as much money as I could. And about 3.5 months later, I left and drove to Alaska and came out here, had maybe $1,200 to my name because I had truck issues that I had to take care of when I got here. So I had maybe $1,200 left to my name. And I was like, well, I'm either going to make this work or it's not. And I'm not a quitter, so I made it work. So got here,
Badass.
got in the water, started dredging, and then I started doing gold nugget jewelry and stuff like that just to kind of extend my financial standing from the gold that I was getting. Plus I was already making jewelry and it's fun. So the jewelry
Talk
definitely
about an
helped me,
adventure.
especially when I first started, because, you know, I could take a, yeah, I was living, and actually I still live in this same cabin during the summers. When I first got here, it was April, so there was still a lot of snow on the ground, and it was still really cold. The cabin that I moved into had no water, no electricity. I had an outhouse, and it's a 16 by 16 like cabin made with like plywood and stuff. It's rough. So it definitely wasn't glamorous at all. And it was so cold in there because I didn't have a wood stove. It was like in the 20s still. And I would just bundle up. I'd go get in the water. And I knew I didn't have heat when I got back. I didn't have hot water to take a hot shower to warm up. So I would sit in my truck for an hour with the heat blaring so I could dry my hair so that my hair wouldn't freeze before I went inside my house.
Wow.
It was a rough start when I first got here. I've made some improvements to the cabin that I stay in now. There's a wood stove, so I have heat now. It's a little bit more comfortable now, but I don't stay there all winter because it would be really rough to have no water and no power and all that when it's like -10, -20.
I think,
So
you know, the
I
crazy
rent a
thing
place
is,
during the winter that's a little bit nicer, but
the crazy thing is being able to see your journey from start to finish is pretty wild, and most people don't really truly understand how much difficulty you have to really endure as a human being. You know, we live in an age where tech, you know, is everywhere, and water and heat and this, that, and the other, and all the creature comforts that we all, you know, we look at and we take for granted. And you know, you really don't, you know, understand just how hard it is to do what you're doing these days in today's day and age. You know, people have that, well, I could just make
yeah.
a call real quick and go back home and there you go, you know. Yeah, and you got to really have it in you. You got to have that grit. You got to have that real initial punch to actually do what you're doing. But one thing I will say is, you look at it, you look back now from when you first got to Alaska, and you laugh about it. I'm sure you do. I'm sure there's days where you sit back and you're like, man, that first couple of weeks sucked, and here I am now, and now I'm, you know, doing a lot better. And right? Am I not right?
It sucked in its own way, but also because it was brand new and it was like an adventure, you have more tolerance for the suckiness when you know it's going to get you where you want to be. And also when you haven't been doing it for years yet, like the first couple weeks is all brand new. It's a new experience. So you have that gung-ho, you know, oh, I'm going to do this type of attitude towards it. But like, I didn't even have hardly any cell service where I was. So, you know, even to pay a bill, I would have to drive a few miles down the road just to get somewhere where I could get signal enough to get online to even pay my phone bill. Jeez. So it's like, if I wanted to get on Facebook and check my messages and message people, I'd have to drive down the road so that I could message people. Like, phone calls would barely work. Texting would work half the time. I couldn't send pictures, stuff like that. So I'd have to drive down the road to do all that. And looking back at it now, I was like, dang, that was pretty rough. But I mean,
well, here we are now.
I'm one of those people that I do what I got to do. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. And like I said, you know, we got some comments that are coming in here. I'm going to I'm going to go ahead and drop some of these comments here on the screen. We got quite a bit coming through here. Eastern Outdoor Expedition says, Dredge Queen. She is the Dredge Queen. Let's see.
Isn't that Tim?
That is Eastern Outdoor Expedition. So you might be right. I'm not 100% sure. It's hard to be able to.
I think that might be.
It's hard to determine names when they use like a business name. It's impossible.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
let's
think that
see.
might be where
It
they're
definitely well
excavating
could
that
be.
old dredge
Oh
in
yeah,
North Carolina.
yeah. Actually, you're right. You're right. Yep, that is. Yep,
Yeah.
right on the button. Right on the button. All right, let's see. Wow, we got a bunch of them coming through. Facebook user says, "You're a badass, Kayla." Oh, that's too awesome. Let's see. We got a couple more, and then we're going to get back into it. Another Facebook user says, "But that's a long drive, so you better give me a couple hours notice." LOL. Oh, that is too funny. That is too funny. Let's see. We got another one here, and then I'll do one more. This one, Facebook user says, "You're awesome for sure. Fastly, one of my favorite miners. Definitely one of the hardest workers and extra tough." Absolutely badass comment there. Absolutely love it. Oh, let's see. We'll grab one more. Let's see. Okay, so last one. This is actually a question for Kayla. What was your first dredge, Kayla?
For a second. A
Yeah,
lot of
no
noise
worries.
out here. Probably gonna be dark, but there we go.
No worries. So we had a
But
question
yeah,
that
so
said,
when
"What?"
I was living in the cabin, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, we had one last question that said, "What was your first dredge that you ever bought?"
My first dredge that I bought was about 10 years ago. It was one of those little 2.5-inch Gold Buddy backpack dredges.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. So I hope that answered your question. All right. So let's go ahead and continue on. So you moved out to Alaska. You started to figure out what you got to do to make a living over there and whatnot. Here in a little bit, I'm going to actually put the Etsy store on here for folks to be able to actually jump over there and grab some of your jewelry. I think it's phenomenal stuff. But anyways, back to the topic. So
Thank
you're
you.
over in Alaska. You're trying to figure things out. At what point did you confidently feel like you told yourself, "I can do this. Day in and day out, I can do this"? At what point were you able to do that?
The first, I'd say 2 weeks was kind of rocky. Especially being somewhere I've never been. I didn't know anyone really. I talked to the claim owner on the phone, but that was it. And so the first 2 weeks was pretty rough. And then not knowing what kind of gold you're going to get into. And some weeks were good and some weeks were bad. It's hit or miss. It's not a guarantee. It's not like, oh, if I work this many hours, I'm going to be guaranteed this much gold. It's not like
Right.
working a normal job where you work 8 hours and I'm going to make $200 today. So
Right.
the first 2 weeks was very uneasy feeling just because I didn't have a lot of money. But I mean, you learn to be frugal. You don't go buying ribeye steaks and going out to eat all the time. I was eating, lots of oatmeal, lots of tuna sandwiches. But I'd say after the first month, things kind of steadied out a little bit and I was like, okay, I can do this. Once I got used to going without a lot of things that I was used to that a lot of people take for granted, like a refrigerator. I didn't have a refrigerator.
That's tough.
A flushing
That's
toilet,
tough.
a shower. Yeah. So like once the shock of like getting used to basically a permanent camping trip like settled in,
Yeah.
and I got into a routine and got into a rhythm, I was like, okay, I can do this. And so that first year I dredged from the end of April until I want to say the beginning or first week of November,
Wow. Just going
and did
at
it
it.
full time that entire stretch. Like obviously I would take days off because your body just won't maintain if you do it every day.
Right.
But it was definitely a learning experience. You know, I had dredging experience prior, but not dredging full time. And that's a whole different beast. You know, it's not just going out for the weekend, punching a little hole and then calling it a day. It's working an entire area, having to mitigate the water issues that you run into. Because if you're just going out for the weekend, you know, you don't have to plan necessarily for floods and things like that, because if it's raining, you just don't go out. Well, when it's your job, you decide either to work in it or try to secure your equipment as best you can because your equipment's still in the water.
Right. So you got,
So
you
it's
know,
definitely a lot of different stressors that come along with doing it full time versus doing it as a hobby and just going out on weekend trips and camping trips and stuff. There's a lot more to think about and a lot more you have to prepare for, and you definitely have to treat your body well because it'll break you down if you don't.
right, right. Well, and the journey that you've been on from the beginning to where you're at now, obviously you figured it out. You know, there's a massive percentage of folks who just won't be able to figure it out. And I'm not saying they're not smart enough to do that, because everybody has their own smarts in the game. You know what I mean? But you're one of the few that has been able to figure it out, actually make that dream happen and something that you want to do and not have to look back. You know, so from here to the next question that I wanted to ask, how does your family feel about it? How does your family feel about you being out there and you know, with what you got going on with your life and doing this full time? What is your family's reaction?
So when I first announced what I was going to be doing, there was a split reaction from people. Some people were all about it and like, oh yeah, that's totally awesome. Like my dad was all for it. My mom was proud of me for like following my dream, but she was definitely kind of more the worrywart of the two. And then I had people that thought I was insane. It's funny because I had people like from all spectrums, just every reaction you can imagine, I got it. Whether it be, oh, I think that's so awesome, or are you stupid? You're never going to make it. You know, I had everything on both ends and all in between. So, you know, you got to learn to tune people out. If they're naysayers and they don't want to help you along the journey that you're on, you have to learn to tune them out. You can't let them get inside your head and get inside your own internal voice, because then you're going to doubt yourself. So that was definitely one thing that I've had to learn. And especially even like with being on TV too, because there's so many negative people. You have to learn to tune people out or it can easily get to you.
No,
because
you know,
obviously I'm
yeah.
not doing something that the average person does.
Well, and that's the crazy thing about the whole situation
Most
with
people, you know, they want a stable job where they know they're going to make them.
Yep. No, I totally agree, and that's the thing, you know, is being able to tune out those folks. And I'm sure it was hard for you. I would not. I've never been in a position to be able to tune folks out with what you got going on in your life, but I'm sure the first couple of weeks had to have been really tough, you know, because all of a sudden, you're getting messages flooding in and you're getting people talking to you, and it's just starting to go wild, buck wild all across social media, and, your actual friends and family that you've known your whole life. And I'm sure the first couple of weeks, or maybe even longer, must have been, a little tough to just tune that out. Just, hey, you know what? I'm doing me. I'm doing what I want to do, living my dream, leave me alone kind of deal. Am I correct in some circumstance
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, at first, it's pretty hard to deal with a lot of people that, are naysayers or negative or want to just send you mean messages for no reason. And I don't know if it just stems from jealousy that they weren't brave or stupid enough to do their own thing and follow their dream, whichever way you want to put it, brave or stupid, however. But
I call those people internet
I don't know if it
superheroes.
stems from a lot of jealousy or people are miserable and misery loves company. I don't know. But it was definitely tough to deal with at the beginning because, I wasn't used to it. I mean, over the years, being a female that, does as much goal prospecting as I do, I, would get random messages from people because word spreads when there's a girl that minds, I guess, which is kind of weird,
yeah.
but so I was used to getting some weird messages from people before, or like, you have no business being in mining, stuff like that. So I was used to it.
Uh-oh,
Oh,
we lost you
no.
for a second. No worries.
Oh, no.
No worries. She'll be back on in a second, folks. So that's just part of the job. That's part of the
Man,
job. Right
what
there.
an adventure she's been on. I mean, that's crazy. Just, yep, I'm selling it all.
Making it
And
happen.
I'm heading up there. No power, no water. No.
That's tough. That's tough. Looks like we got her back on. Kayla, we'll wait just a moment for you. We'll go ahead and nope, you're back. All right. Yeah, if you want to continue on with what you're saying there, that'd be awesome.
I lost you guys, but I'm back.
Sorry.
Yep. No worries. Yeah, if you want to continue on to what
I
you
don't
were
know what
saying there,
happened.
that'd be awesome. No, you're good. If you want to continue on to what you were saying there, that'd be great.
Oh, so yeah. So I was used to getting some negativity, but it was in much smaller doses. And then when you go on TV, and not just TV itself, but like a international TV show that's shown all over the world, it was really weird, like getting messages from people all over the world. And, I'd say 80% of them that I get are people being nice, compliments or, just wanted to tell me that they like me on the show, stuff like that, which is cool. But then you get the other 20% or so that some people are just nasty. And it was definitely a hard adjustment at first. I try my hardest not to let them get to me. Every once in a while, if you're already like irritated or stressed out in your own life, and then you read something negative from someone, sometimes it's hard not to get pissed at them. But I try my best.
I agree.
So you're telling us that there's been a lot of comments typed out and then deleted.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely put some comments and then I was like, no, don't post that. But
no, that's absolutely awesome. But,
I think I've done pretty well at fighting my tongue.
yeah, definitely. And that's the thing is, you are a woman, and in the dredging community and in the mining community, it's a shock for a lot of folks. But what they don't realize is you're changing the game and the way it works. Like, you're making things work over there. You're doing it on television, off television, and you're making a name for yourself. And people love you for who you are because you're a natural individual. You don't have to prove anything. You're not there to prove anything. You're there to do what you genuinely love, and that's why you've gone where you've gotten to. That's why people love you for what you do. I mean, your sheer hard work and determination to put a staple on it is appreciated by everybody, myself included. There's a ton of comments in here. I'm trying to
the
keep up.
spirit of gold. She's keeping that spirit alive. She's living
She
it.
is.
It's amazing.
We got a comment here that says SDI Prospecting says, Kayla, you're an inspiration to many, myself included. Doing what you do reminds me that time is short, life is short, and the time to chase one's dreams is now. I couldn't agree with you more on that.
Well, that's so true. That's kind of the thought that I had when I left. You know, once I wasn't really scared when I made the decision that I was going to come to Alaska and dredge full time. It didn't really sink in until the morning that I drove away from North Carolina. And I was like, oh shit, I'm giving up everything that I know, going like as far as you possibly could go within the same country. I think I drove 5,700 miles.
Jeez.
By myself. And I was like, this is like a huge gamble. But at that point, I was like, I'm already packed up. I've already quit my job. I've already given up my house. Like, there's really no turning back. So you just kind of suck up your fear and just go with it.
Right. Well, and
but
the
I
funny
won't
thing
say
is
that the drive and the trip was intimidating, because it was.
Right. We got one more comment here. I appreciate that, Rob, from Mr. Chris Tinsley. He says, who is your inspiration / mentor?
That's a tough one.
That's a good one. That's what that means.
I've had a lot of people. That have inspired me in different ways. I would definitely say that my dad and my grandfather were definitely huge inspirations, just because my dad is, even though he's not really into gold mining, the things that he took me to do is what got me into it, and exposed me to seeing gold prospecting. So we used to go on these camping trips and survival trips and stuff like that. And so a lot of what I learned with my dad. And then my grandfather was always into rock hounding and old bottles and Indian artifacts and gold prospecting. So I've always kind of looked up to him, just because I've had that same interest. And he was definitely an individual. He didn't go with the flow of normal society. He was his own person. I think same with my dad too. Like, both of them, they were their own people. Well, my dad's still around, but my grandfather isn't. But they're just their own people. They don't care what other people think of them. They don't try to impress people. They don't care about trying to fit in with what's, trending right now. Like, they just didn't care. They were just who they were. And I really admire people that are like that. So those two would definitely be the top two, I would say, in my life. And then when I got to Alaska, so my boyfriend, he dredges as well. He's helped me a lot too. And we actually work together a lot. And he's definitely helped me along the way while I've been here, as far as just learning. Alaska is a whole different beast. Like, mining in North Carolina and California and places like that, like, it's just different. We don't have those solid freezes. You don't have ice dams that you have to look out for. You don't have, here in the springtime when the water's really low, that's ideal for dredging, but you have to make sure that you're really cautious, because all that ice built up on the river and on the sides, all it takes is a few big sheets to break off, and it dams up the river, and you don't even know. It could be miles upstream. And if you see that water drop, to get the heck out of the water, because something's blocking the water flow upstream. And when it busts loose, a wall of water and huge ice sheets like the size of cars come down like a flash flood, and that'll kill you. And so he's definitely been a big help with just learning the terrain, learning different techniques that are useful out here versus back east. So I think those three people have definitely been the most inspiration, the most help in not only dredging and mining, but also like just reassuring who I am.
Right. No, that's a great answer. In fact, I was full blown into it. I mean, when I get to thinking who my biggest inspiration was, and that's a really tough question for anybody to really answer, because you have certain people in your life that you absolutely cherish and you hold near and dear to your heart, and those specific individuals are the ones that really gave you the firstborn inspiration to do what you want to do in life and be who you want to be. And as you get older, you have other people that enter your life, and they become somewhat of an inspiration for you. But always remembering the person who was there for you to really show you who you are as your own self, and get you excited into something that you genuinely have a passion for. I mean, you can't get better than that. You really can't get better than that. We have a couple
Yeah,
more
and it's good to
questions
have people to
here.
look up to that, they're comfortable with who they are. So they're just going to inspire you to be comfortable with who you are.
100%. I totally agree with that. We have another comment here, and then we're going to actually start talking a little bit about the show. I know you probably are still under contract and stuff, and I've talked to a couple different individuals that they're like, hey, yeah, we can't say this, can't say that, which is perfectly fine. We're just going to do some generic questions with the show for the end of the podcast here. Like I said, I don't want to keep you too late. I know you're out and about, and I'm sure it's probably going to start getting a little chilly and mosquitoes and all that good stuff. But what I did want to ask, John Dolch had a pretty good question. Do you still have your very first nugget you ever found, Kayla?
I do. The very first nugget I ever found, I found when I was 22. I was living in North Carolina. I had already been finding gold, prior to that. And I'd found some pickers and, good flakes, stuff like that, but never found like a really chunky nugget. The first nugget that I found was on one of my return trips. Well, my first return prospecting trip back to California, where it all started. And that's where I met my friend Todd. And I would go dig with him. And we had dug this pretty big hole and got down to the clay layer. And then he's actually the one who taught me about sniping. So I guess he would be one of my inspirational people as well. He's no longer with us, but he would definitely be one of my inspirational people as well. So we had this massive hole going that we had hand dug. We got down to the clay layer, and he was teaching me about sniping, where you snorkel and, wave the lighter material away. And the sun was I remember it perfectly. The sun was shining right down in the water, right on the clay, and you could just see this yellow chunk just glittering right back up. And I had my snorkel on, and I picked it up, and that was my first nugget.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's not huge. I think it's like 2.3 grams. So it's not a huge one, but it's still good size. So I had it mounted on a necklace, and that's actually the necklace that I've worn like while I was on the show. And I usually wear it every single day, but the jump ring on it's getting a little thin. I need to get it repaired, or I need to fix it when I get my soldering stuff set back up. But I wear it every day, minus recently. But yeah, that was my first nugget. That's definitely one of my most prized possessions, especially since the person that I found it with is no longer here. So. But he's actually the one that gave me my nickname. So.
I was gonna say you have a little piece of him.
So Todd is actually the one that gave me my nickname. Yeah. So it was funny because I was the only girl out there prospecting at the time. And I'm a pretty small person. Like I'm like 115 pounds. So I'm pretty small. I was the only girl out there. I'm small. And the second time I went back out there, I went with him again, and I found another one. I think it was about 1.86 grams. And so he said that he's like, your nickname is Little Nugget because every time you come out here, we find nuggets, and you're the smallest person on the mountain. So he nicknamed me Little Nugget, and that's where the nugget came from in my name.
That is so awesome. That is so badass. That is just
Yeah.
that's something else. You get to carry a piece of him with you everywhere you go, and that's freaking awesome. Yeah, that couldn't be more of a special freaking moment. It really couldn't. We do have another question here from one of the good friends of mine. Let me try to find it here. So, so I'm going to rephrase this a little bit because I don't know if it was typed out properly. Kayla, for all the women or for all the ladies of the group, I'm assuming of the community, what kind of advice could you offer them to help them on their journey with what they're trying to do in the community?
So I don't really look at mining as like a gender specified hobby or profession, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people do. A lot of people think it's a man's sport or a man's hobby. But I mean, it's digging in the dirt, and anybody is capable of doing that. I guess the best thing that I would recommend is, there's definitely going to be people that don't think a woman should do stuff like that. And I've run into quite a bit of that in the past. The best thing to do is just ignore them. Just go about and do what you want to do. If it's truly what you love, just do it. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to the people that think mining is a man's world and women need to be at home doing the dishes. Don't listen to them.
I agree. I couldn't agree
because
with you more
anybody
on that.
can do it as long as you have the passion for it, as long as you want to put in the work, as long as you want to do the research. Anybody is capable of doing it. To what extent depends on you and how far you want to take it. But I would definitely say just don't give up. Do all your own research. Don't depend on somebody else to do everything for you. Do your own research, do your own footwork, do your own sampling, and eventually good things will come.
No, it couldn't have been said better. And to be honest with you, I'm 100% the same way. I mean, it's actually exciting. It's exciting to be able to see women out there kicking ass and taking names. That's extremely exciting. Like, who in their right mind would not have that same thought process? Unfortunately, we're humans. We have our own thought processes, as you know, and there's a bunch of old timers or
You would be
some
surprised.
Yeah, no, I agree, but it blows my mind. It's like it's anyone's game, right? If you go out there, you have a passion for it, and you really do the due diligence and you succeed in it, then every bit of that succession is your right. It's yours. I don't care if you're.
They're just jealous because she outdigs them. That's all it is.
I agree.
So I have a funny story that kind of relates to that. A long time ago in North Carolina, this was, I don't know, between 12 and 10 years ago, within that time frame. I used to be pretty active on this one forum. I think it was called Eastern U.S. Prospectors or something like that. And my name on the forum was Fire on the Mountain, which doesn't give away whether you're a man or a woman. It's kind of neutral name. Nobody would ever know. And I used to post, some gold pictures, stuff I was finding. But I never had any pictures of me on there. It was just like some gold pictures and stuff. And for the longest time, everybody just assumed I was a guy. And I remember one day I had got, a wild hair up my butt or something. And I decided I'm going to paint my fingernails. And, I'm a girl. I'm going to be a little girly. So I painted my fingernails. And you can see the fingernail polish in one of the pictures. And I remember people commenting like, "Oh, nice fingernail polish, dude," because they all thought I was a man. And
Oh,
I was like, for one, I'm not a dude. I'm actually a girl. So yeah, I do paint my fingernails sometimes, but I just remember that, like, it just is glued in my brain. I remember that because it made me laugh so hard. Because for 2 or 3 years, however many years I was on that forum and active on it, everybody thought I was a man. Just they assumed I was a man. And then when everyone found out I was a girl, then of course everybody wanted to dig with me. And then I started getting hate messages because I was finding more gold than a lot of people on the forum.
See, there it is again. There it is again.
Well, I can honestly say you
But
found
I
more
just
gold than
remember
me.
clearly-
That's for sure.
I just remember clearly the comment like, "Oh, nice fingernail polish, dude." And I was like, well, it is nice fingernail polish, but I'm not a dude.
Oh, that is too funny. We got a comment here that is from One Day Off Prospecting. He says, "So damn cool. You definitely should write a biography. The world needs more motivated individuals. My daughters are loving your story." One Day Off, I appreciate you with that comment, man.
Well,
Absolutely,
thank you.
absolutely badass. We're all rooting for you. Day in and day out.
We got Raymond Wells says he wants to see Kayla's jewelry link.
Oh yeah. So, well, thank you for reminding me, Raymond Arrow. I get to bumping my gums a little bit and trying to get into some of the amazing stories that Kayla has going on, and I totally space about it.
It's
But
got the best story so
yeah,
far. I mean,
I agree.
I haven't heard one top it yet. I don't think. I'm just gonna sell everything and go for it. Fuck it.
So for everybody that's watching this evening, if you guys would like to go and show her some love, at the very, very bottom of this screen here, as you can see, there's an Etsy shop. Right there is the link, etsy.com/shop/the Peking Dough. Go over there, go buy some jewelry, support her cause, and show her some love.
What kind of stuff can they find on your website?
So in my Etsy shop is all like handmade jewelry, mostly wire wrap jewelry that I make, with different types of stones, but I also incorporate gold nuggets in several pieces as well. A lot of I call them Tree of Life. It's like a wire wrapped tree pendant, but they have a gold nugget intertwined within the tree trunk. So it's like the heart of the tree is the gold nugget. A lot of those are made with McKinley Creek gold that we actually found on season 5 of Gold Rush Whitewater when my crew was working at the House Rock site. So there is gold from the show in a lot of pieces. And all the pieces that are made with gold from the show, they'll be labeled as such. They'll say McKinley Creek, and in the description, it'll say, from what season of the show. But there's also some stuff made with gold that I personally mine. So those will also say that they're just gold mined personally by me. So there's not really any confusion. I don't want somebody buying something thinking they're getting a piece from the show and it's not. But I also do other stuff too. I sell gold pay dirt for people that don't want jewelry but still want something that has to do with gold.
Yeah, we got a comment here from Indiana Gold Gator Scotty. He says her pay dirt is fire. Good stuff.
Yeah, he's gotten a few bags from me.
Absolutely awesome. Absolutely.
But I've been selling pay dirt. This is my 3rd year of selling pay dirt.
That's awesome. Everybody watching, make sure you jump over there, show her some love, get some jewelry. I mean, follow what she has going on. I mean, I am a little cheerleader myself, and I've been watching her every step of the way, and it's just absolutely awesome. I mean, even watching you on the show, and everything from having problems with this to figuring this out, and I mean, you taking on the leadership role first and foremost. I mean, holy moly, that must have been a complete couple of pieces of concrete on your shoulder, you're like, oh, me? Okay. You know, do you want to kind of speak on when you were given the role to be able to be the leader on that? Like, how did you feel internally on that situation?
That was a very stressful situation. And also, I was, it put a little unease in me as well because I'm used to dredging just by myself or just with one other person. I also, before the show, I was terrified of cameras, which I know sounds insane because I'm on a huge TV show, but I was terrified of cameras. Like, I was like a deer in headlights in front of cameras. Like, I hated being on film. So just getting on the show itself, I almost didn't do the show. But just being on the show itself was already like a huge fear, like that I was trying to overcome. So you add then being asked to run a crew on top of it. And I was like already a ball of anxiety and stress. And then you add that on top and I was like, oh geez. But I didn't want to say no, so I did it.
Yeah.
But it was really weird because you have people, I just showed up as a worker. I didn't show up knowing I was going to be running a crew. I just showed up as a normal worker. I was there to do my job, and that was that. So then when I got asked to run the crew, because I had more experience with dredging, I said yes. But deep inside, I was like, are you really capable of doing this? And then, you have that internal battle going on of like, oh no, what did I get myself into? But at the same time, you're like, no, I have, the most dredging experience out of this crew. I think I can solve problems pretty well. I can figure things out pretty well. I'm a really fast learner. So I was like, even if you're scared, just don't show it. So that's what I tried to do. I just tried not to show it. But I showed up as a worker just like everybody else. And I know that some people got rubbed the wrong way by me taking on that position because they thought they should have taken that position. So it was really hard at the beginning, kind of gaining everybody's respect and having people listen to me because when I showed up, I was an equal or lesser to them.
Right.
So then to be in a higher up position all of a sudden, I had a hard time getting everybody on board for the first few weeks. And that was a definite struggle. But as time went on, it got easier. I got more confident. I was already confident in dredging, but working with, total strangers, whole new environment, dealing with a TV show, that's so many like firsts all at once. It was a lot to overcome at the beginning. But the second year, last year was a lot easier, not physically or mentally as far as the job went, but as far as running a crew, it was a lot easier just because I already had that first year under my belt. So I was definitely more confident with making decisions and, telling people what I needed to get done, things like that.
Right. So another question I got to ask, we'll go ahead and wrap it up so you're not staying too late. But another question I wanted to ask was, after taking that leadership role, and then the crew kind of being split to two different crews, was there any situation in some of those episodes? Was there any situation where you didn't feel confident in the planning of the way things were going? Did you kind of feel I don't know, maybe unsafe, or was there any kind of situation with the two different crews, you taking on that leadership role? Was there any kind of time where you were like, yeah, this is kind of not going to work, or you felt like this just wasn't a good situation to be in?
I think the worst thing to try to tackle was going into an area that I knew was going to be extremely deep. Because having a lot of dredging experience prior, you know that if you're going through tons and tons of overburden, this isn't necessarily like a issue with a crew or splitting up a crew, but this was one of the biggest issues I had with the show in general.
Right.
When you're going through a ton of overburden, unless that overburden's paying, it's not feasible to really get enough gold to justify the whole season when you have to go through 20 feet of overburden with a 6-inch dredge. Unless you're using heavy equipment to move a lot of that overburden and then coming in afterwards with a dredge, which we're not allowed to do, it's just not feasible. It doesn't pay. You know, you don't have a pay layer all throughout. If it was paying throughout, that would be a completely different story, but it was definitely very frustrating and a little demoralizing having to go through 20 feet of overburden that first year, not really finding a whole lot of gold. And yeah, at the end we found some gold, but in all honesty, it wasn't enough to justify how much work and how much overburden we had to go through. So that was definitely the hardest thing, I think, for me doing the show. Just because going into it, I already knew, like, if the overburden isn't paying, it's kind of like you're just asking for not necessarily failure, but you're not asking for success.
Right.
So
No,
that was a
totally...
hard thing mentally to wrap my brain around and just try to suck it up and do it anyways.
Right. And we got a comment here that says it's from Mr. Chris Tinsley that watches the show. He says that pond with all those poles you kept getting tangled up in was scary looking.
So that was a all around not an ideal situation. To be quite honest, I never wanted to dig that hole. That wasn't my idea to dig that hole, but it was my job to do it, so I did it. Everyone kept telling me, oh, this spot's never been dug. And I'm like, well, why would they take the time to dig the footings and the pilings for the flume there and not run that material, and not, if they're already that close to bottom, why would they not dig that first, then build the flume up and flop the water and then dig the other side? That's only logical. But nobody wanted to listen to me. I got called negative and a naysayer and all this stuff, and I'm like, it's not being negative, it's actually just thinking about, like, if I was in their shoes back in the day and they have to dig down to set these pilings for the flume anyways, why would they not dig that side first, well, then build the flume, flop the water over, and then dig the other side? So in my mind, I was like, it's obvious it's been dug.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, that's a good comment there.
You've only been mining since you were 17. Come on.
But I mean, I don't know. I just feel like that's common sense.
Yeah.
So this isn't a good way to even start a work project, but I was trying not to be, but I was already in that mentality of, like, this is a waste of time. But I was trying not to let that mentality ruin the momentum. But deep down, I knew that hole was a waste of time.
Right. Well, from here on out, I'm sure
that's definitely tough going into a project knowing that you're 90% sure is a waste of time. It's really hard to be positive about a project that you already have that feeling about.
Right. We got another comment here from Facebook user Mr. Roger Myers of the PB family. He says, I like you saying, as I became a crew leader, I still just came to work as part of the crew. ... So true for the success of any supervisor, manager, and all the way up to CEO positions. Those willing to work alongside the team they belong will succeed. Kudos.
So that's always been something, as I've been working, the past 2 years with that crew, is I try not to be a dictator style leader. where I just bark orders and tell people what to do. You know, I try to lead by example. And I like to be alongside the guys right there doing exactly what they're doing. You know, I try not to ask anyone to do a job that I wouldn't do myself. And I think you gain a lot of people's respect more when you have that kind of mentality. Because if you just ask everyone else to do all the dirty work and you're just telling people what to do, you know, people don't really have as much respect for those type of people. So I try not to ask anyone to do anything that I'm not willing to do. Obviously, there's a few things, not many, but there were a few things physically that, you know, I might not be able to do as well as some of the other guys that are a lot bigger than I am because I'm pretty small. So like, I still can do a lot of heavy lifting. I was still moving boulders, you know, I could still hike in the winches. I was hiking in boards when we set the walkways, you know, I was still doing a lot of heavy duty work. But there were certain things like maybe lifting the winches over my head to mount them on the wall. That I might not have as much upper body strength to lift the winch that weighs almost as much as I do above my head. So things like that, obviously, I would get one of the other guys to do. But if I'm physically capable of doing it, I'm not going to have somebody else do it just because I can.
Right. No,
and
that's totally
I don't know,
agreeable.
there's something kind of, I get kind of proud at the end of the day. Like if I know I worked really hard at the end of the day, it's just like a very satisfying feeling. Yeah, you're tired, but at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I did that. And it's just a really good feeling. Whereas if I sit on my ass all day and bark orders and tell people what to do, I feel like a piece of crap at the end of the day.
So when you're working your own personal claims, is that more relieving then? Because you're like, okay, finally I can just do whatever I want to do.
Do whatever I want to do. Don't have nobody to worry about but myself and my crew or whoever you have with you. Yeah, that's a good question, Arrow. I like that.
Yeah, I do enjoy my own mining more than I do TV mining. Because I'm on my own schedule. I don't have nearly as many people around. There's way less drama because, you know, we have that many people working together 5 months out of the year and basically living together. I mean, we lived in tents at a camp together. You know, there's going to be drama. But not only that, you have to adjust how you do things when you're working for a show, because not only are you mining, but you have to do it in a way that they can capture for TV. So by that, I mean, like, you can't go digging and change the whole site when the film crew isn't there, because then they come back and it looks completely different and they don't have any justification for it. So like, we'd actually have to sign piece of paper that says we won't dig or change the site in any major way when the film crew isn't there. So we have to work within their time slots, you know.
Yeah, and I'm
so
sure that's pretty tough.
That they were off. It makes it tough because in real life mining, the weather dictates when you mine, not somebody's schedule. So like when the weather's good, I'm going after it. When the weather's shit, I'm not.
Yep.
So
right on the button.
That's the hardest part of adjusting to, you know, mining for TV versus mining in real life. Not that, you know, we weren't doing real mining, because we were. It's just tweaked a little bit as far as when and how.
Right.
So that was definitely difficult.
Right. We have another comment here. Another question. Kenneth Dursteller. Hey, man, you have a good evening. We got another comment here from Mr. Raymond Correz, good PB family member of ours. He says, how much does the show take away from your personal prospecting / mining goals? Good question.
It takes a lot away from my personal, because normally I dredge from April until, you know, end of October or end of November. It depends on the weather, you know. Some years I get in earlier, some years I get a later start, and it just varies. Whereas when I go to the show, you know, we have a set start date and a set end date that I'm there from May, first week of May until, you know, little after the first week of October. So that's basically my entire mining season gone.
Right.
The last 2 years I've been in a mad dash to get in the water as early as possible, just so that I get some time in the water before I have to leave to do my own thing. And then when I get home, I'm in a mad dash. It's not get home and decompress. It's get home, throw my bags in the cabin, don't even unpack, but unload the dredge and go get it in the water. And I just get right back in the water until it freezes. And then once it freezes, then I'm like, oh, okay, I can decompress and unpack. So it
That's
definitely
tough.
takes a lot away from, my own personal goals and what I truly love to do on my own. But not only with mining, just in general with life, because I'm out there living in a tent for 5 months. I'm away from my boyfriend for 5 months. I have to rehome my animals. I have to find somebody to take care of my dog and my 2 cats while I'm gone. Any kind of hobby that I have. I mean, obviously I bring jewelry stuff with me because I can do that around the campfire at night. But like any kind of other hobby that I have just kind of goes out the window. Like at home, if I'm mining, in my spare time, I might go out and forage for wild edible mushrooms and dehydrate them so I could eat them in the winter and stuff like that, or go pick berries and make jams. And, I like doing all that foraging stuff, but that kind of gets, flushed down the toilet when I'm living in a camp for 5 months working on a show. So that part's kind of hard.
Well, so we'll go ahead and close this podcast in the next 10 minutes. That way you can get home and relax and enjoy yourself for the rest of the evening. I don't want to take too much time
I came
from
straight. I came straight on here from the water. Not driving today.
Well, we do appreciate you more than you know. We really do. Everybody here that's watching, I mean, there's just so much positivity and so much awesome stuff that I'm trying to get through all the comments, guys. Unfortunately, I'm not able to. There'll be a time in which further down the road with the Digging Deeper podcast, we'll have someone dedicated to the comments and go from there, but it's impossible to get through them.
We still got.
So is this going to remain, this podcast, does it stay up on the Facebook group for a while?
So what we do is, and that's totally completely up to you, is typically when we do a podcast, it goes on to our Digging Deeper podcast webpage on YouTube, and it's up there. And then we also have it with the PB family for the PB family to be able to watch there. Now, we have had times where we did need to keep it as strictly such a live podcast, and we can continue to keep it just as a live podcast to where it's no longer, you can't tune into it anymore. And that's all up to the guest 100%. So if that's something that you want to keep as it just being alive and then it's gone, that's perfectly fine. If you do want to keep it up on the Digging Deeper podcast, we can keep it up on there on the YouTube page as well. That's completely up to you.
Well, I was just asking because I might go through and read some of the comments, and if people had questions that didn't get answered, I could answer them.
Yeah, no, cool. Definitely. Yeah. So on our PB YouTube page, they'll be able to find it through the Prospecting Buddy Facebook page. They can find it there. I think for you got a lot going on. You're in a ton of different groups and whatnot, and you got a billion things going on. I think the easiest would just jump on our YouTube page and just click on the video, and then you'll see all the comments from Facebook and YouTube. So it'll be much, much easier. Yeah, if you tried to go to the video through Facebook PB, you'll be scrolling like this looking for the video.
Gotcha.
It'll get buried. It'll get buried. But
well, we still got one question we haven't asked that we always ask, and what is your personal best day? What is the most gold you found on your best day? If there's a day that sticks out in your head, you're like, oh yeah, that was the day. And
look at Arrow kicking ass and taking names. I love it. I love
it. I mean, I wouldn't say that I've had like phenomenal. Well, I guess that depends on your description or definition of phenomenal would be, but there's been days where working with one other person in the past, we've definitely beat over an ounce in a day.
Nice.
So,
Nice. What was the biggest piece of gold you found?
so I can't fully claim it myself because I wasn't the only one dredging that day, but it was a shared effort. And it's not show related, but outside. This was quite a while back. Is a quarter ounce nugget.
Oh,
Nice.
oh
Nice.
dang.
Everybody had big smiles that day.
Jeez,
Yeah. But
That is
it's in my
absolutely awesome.
possession. I own the nugget.
She's like, well, I have it. It's in my possession. I love it.
Yeah. Well, we
Well,
made a deal. So
That's
well,
awesome.
post some pictures of it on Prospecting Buddy. Everybody would love to see it.
We would.
yeah. I have a picture on my Facebook. It's kind of a silly picture, but I'm actually holding it up and kissing it. It's a quarter ounce nugget that I'm kissing. I'm
That's
just being
absolutely
goofy.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, all
But
right.
that's the
Well,
biggest nugget that I have is a quarter ounce. But like I said, I can't 100% take the credit for it because we were working together that day. So
I got just this teeny little guy that I'm so proud of. And so I'm just going to hold on to that guy and pray I find a quarter ounce nugget one of these days.
Yeah, I
yeah,
got a
it
quarter
definitely was a
gram nugget that I'm
surprise.
pretty happy with.
Yeah, I mean, up until that point, like I wasn't finding anything really huge. My first nugget ever that I talked about earlier when I was 22, I found that one was 2.3 grams. So quite the jump from
Nice.
2.3 to quarter ounce.
Yeah, no doubt.
I would have lost my shit. I would have been like, wait, what? Quarter ounce? 2 grammers are
Yeah,
nice. 2 grammers. I got a
yeah.
I think it's a 3.14 or 3.15 or something like that. It's just this little round, dilapidated, looks horrible, but I got it from my uncle before he passed away, and I hold on to that thing near and dear. And to me, it's just the biggest nugget in the world. So I can only imagine how it feels to have a possession of a quarter ounce nugget. That's awesome. That's absolutely
Yeah,
awesome.
and like, I sell a lot of jewelry with gold in it, and I sell gold pay dirt and stuff. Like, I'm not opposed to selling gold. Obviously, I have to do that in order to be able to do it full time. Um, and I've sold gold to the refinery to get smelted and stuff like that too. But I definitely have my little stash that I put aside, of my favorite pieces that definitely won't get sold, and that's in it.
That's awesome.
Nice.
She has her own collection that she'll never part with. I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Well, with that being said, everybody, we appreciate you guys jumping on the podcast this evening. We don't want to take up too much of Kayla's time. The internet connectivity issue, she was trying to get it figured out. We were able to make the podcast happen. And I'd say we've already took up too much of her time, right, Arrow? I mean, she did everything she could. She got out of the water. She got in the rig. She drove down, made it happen. So, no, Kayla, we really do appreciate you. You have no idea.
No, it's no problem. I have fun doing these. I've done a few of them. I've been on Prospectors Radio and
Yeah, I watched
Flash
that
in Your
episode.
Pan.
Mr. Ed
Yeah.
Marvin. Mr. Ed Marvin. That
Yeah.
guy is one hell of a guy, isn't he? He's an awesome
So
guy.
yeah, I've done a few different ones. I enjoy doing them. They're pretty fun. In the summertime, it's kind of hard for me to do them because I found that a lot of them are, I'm in Alaska time and everyone else is in different time zones. And so they end up being like in the middle of the day, which sometimes makes it kind of hard when I'm mining because I don't want to get out of the water.
I don't blame you one bit. I don't blame you one bit.
The one thing that she for sure has found is she is 100% sure that there is no cure for gold fever.
Yeah. That's definitely true.
That's for sure.
It's definitely been an obsession ever since I started, and it's only gotten worse.
Yeah,
hey,
I know that feeling.
The worse it gets, the happy we all are watching you and watching it get worse. I don't mind, and neither does anybody else watching. That's
Like at
for
this point,
sure.
I have 4 dredges.
She's like, if I had 4 arms, I'd be manning all the dredges.
Hey, well, you never know what size
If
the
I was
river
an
is that you're going to
octopus,
find
I'd
awesome
run
gold.
8 dredges.
She's like, I'd run every single dredge I could.
But I have different dredges for different jobs and different spots and different difficulty levels. And
Right. Well, with that being said, if you have anybody in your neck of the woods, Kayla, that you want to have jump on the podcast and maybe listen to me and Errol bump our gums a little bit, you're more than welcome to. We'd love to pick brains. That's something we absolutely enjoy doing. We love the prospecting and mining community.
you should talk to the guy that I had on my crew last year. His name's Justin Peterson, if you haven't already.
No, definitely. We'll shoot something over to him and see if he wants to jump on. We'd love having everybody
He'd probably be happy
on.
to do it.
We love having
But he's got
everybody.
a lot of prospecting experience as well.
Justin Peterson. Well, if you see a podcast in the next couple of months with him on, you better tune in.
I'll try to, as long as it works with my work schedule.
She'll be dredging and then have the phone.
If something absolutely amazing happens out there and you want to tell a story, let us know. We want to have you on it. We want to hear about it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm in the process. Actually, I didn't even mention this, and it totally slipped my mind. I'm in the process of I'm really bad at like shooting stuff all the time with my camera because I just get so busy working that I forget. But I have been getting some underwater clips and stuff that I haven't released on Facebook or anything, and I'm thinking about doing eventually a YouTube channel.
Cool.
I was looking for your YouTube channel. I was looking for one.
I don't have one set up yet. But I would like to link in the gold prospecting with the jewelry making, because then I can show underwater footage of the gold being found, whether it be from dredging or metal detecting or however I find the gold, but show gold being found. And then the viewer can like see that exact piece of gold being turned into jewelry in the video. And then that piece of jewelry be available for purchase. So then whoever buys that piece of jewelry like has a keepsake and go to YouTube and watch a video of that exact piece of gold they're wearing, how it was found and how it was made.
That's badass. See, you already know what you're doing. That's what I love about it.
It's in the very, very early stages of planning. Like I have to learn all the editing stuff, and I have to have time. In the summer, it's just hard because I'm dredging so much, but eventually, if I don't get it released or started this summer, I'd at least like to get it started by this fall or winter when I have a little bit more downtime. But I think that would be a pretty cool concept, because the person wearing that nugget, they can show their friends and be like, oh, and watch this. You can see that piece of gold being found and then how it was turned into jewelry. And I think that would be cool, because there's lots of gold prospecting videos and there's tons of jewelry tutorial videos, but there's not really anything that bridges that gap of like, this is how this exact stone or piece of gold was found, and then showing it being turned into jewelry, which I think would be really cool. That
would be badass. In fact, it's funny you say that, because we had a gem and mineral show back east that one of the PB Mods, Rob McGuire, was a part of, and then we also did group. I believe it was Indiana Gem and Mineral Show, and it was awesome. But we ended up doing a group dig back east over with Cottonwood Trails. Jim McIntyre, awesome guy, phenomenal guy. He owns his own private land. He has like ancient shark teeth. I mean, the whole works. But what was awesome is we actually had a lady come in and set up her own booth to do these gem trees. And these those are cool. Oh, so awesome. And it's like, if you had a centerpiece that was shown where it was mined or how it was found or how it was shaped or whatever the case may be, oh my gosh, that would just, not only would that piece sell so freaking fast, but the way it was done would just be...
It's the provenance of the gold.
Yeah, it's like the rock hounders of the world would just be so in shock and awe. Like, oh, that's how that, like, that's exciting. Extremely exciting.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna release a bunch of videos like that. It'll be like a little mini series, like a series within my YouTube channel, because I already have a name picked out for it, but I'm not gonna say it until it's like actually out there because I don't want somebody to steal my name.
I agree.
But I have a name picked out for the little series that I'm gonna do for the gold to jewelry thing.
That'll be awesome. Well,
But I'll have other videos too, probably of like mushroom foraging and rock hounding and all different kinds of stuff. But the actual gold to jewelry thing is going to be like a series on my channel.
you need to
That's
keep
cool.
us informed.
And
Keep
then I'll have
us
like a separate,
informed.
whether I'm on Etsy still, I might have a standalone website by that time for my jewelry. Or I might still be on Etsy. I haven't quite decided that yet, but either way, I would have like a designated section for jewelry from that series.
That's awesome. That's absolutely
that's pretty
badass.
cool.
That is badass. Keep us informed, please. Keep us informed. Let us know.
I got some ideas in the works.
We'd
Yeah.
definitely love to, especially with the PB family, we'd love to let them know what's going on. So, the minute it happens, shoot us a message, Arrow a message, me a message. I know you're super
The
busy, but
mosquitoes are out.
I was going to say it's time to wrap this up. But with that being said, I appreciate everybody on here this evening jumping on. Kayla, I appreciate you more than you know. Arrow, my co-host, I love you, dude. With that being said, everybody have a good night. Kayla, you drive safe. Get back home. Enjoy yourself. Relax. Turn on that stove and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna go take a nice hot shower. I'm actually in the middle of moving back into my other cabin, so I gotta pack.
You just don't quit, do you? Just
No,
go,
she
go,
doesn't.
go.
No, she don't quit. There ain't no quitting in her blood,
No.
man.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Heck
Yeah,
heck
thanks for coming on. We'd love to have you again. So,
Yep. With that being said,
just let me know whenever. Summertime's a little harder, but I'm always down to do the podcast.
heck
Cool.
yeah. Awesome. With that being said, I love every single person that jumped on here. You all have a good night and tune in 2 weeks from now. We got another special guest. We'll see you guys later.
peace.